Hey, how's it going? If you're new to this channel, hi, nice to meet you. Click the subscribe button to join this family because today we have a serious topic to talk about.
What? Child. Anyway,
So there has been this trend that has been going on for a while now where various people on different social media platforms, most especially Twitter and Tumblr, go around fixing art from professional artists or fixing designs from shows that don't fit their highly placed moral standards, or literally just fixing art from people whose content they don't enjoy. Some people I enjoy watching have talked about this as well, sharing their opinions with various points. So today we're going to stop peeking through the keyhole and look at the entire situation. If you're not familiar with the term fixing art, well, basically it starts from one person online. As per usual, they see an image they don't like, which in some cases it's mostly due to reasons best known to themselves. Then they immediately go, I should fix this drawing that doesn't belong to me and upload it to shame the artist and put the artist in their place. That's a really good idea.
That's stupid. Use your common sense.
Most of the times they do this to fit their moral standards of how art should look, ignoring the fact that art is subjective and each person's taste of art will be different from the next person's taste of art. And things like style and medium play a huge role in how an image is made up and presented to viewers. Sometimes they fix art by desexualizing characters they feel are hypersexualized, but they always take it out of context and disregard things like story and character development and how certain characters have personality traits that can be portrayed through their costumes and features, which is really not something extremely difficult to think about. And some of these people use race bending to fix a character, with the most popular one, which was the entire issue with Zeefixesart and her entire escapade with Shannon, but we're still going to talk about that later on in this video. Another popular form they use to fix art is when they pretend to give constructive criticism to the artist, but it clearly doesn't sound like it, judging from the tone they use whenever they post their tweets, and it just rubs off the wrong way on everyone who sees the posts. You can tell the person really doesn't care about the art or the artist and is just trying to make the artist look bad while making themselves feel superior to the artist for no reason at all. So I took a deep dive into some of these art fixers and I spent some time scrolling Twitter trying to find out why they even go ahead to fix art in the first place, and that is aside from just being a toxic individual on the internet. And most of the times their reasons always fell neatly into one or more of these categories: diversity and inclusion, social validation, ethics, and moral values. Yeah, the mind of a toxic person is quite obscured. Now don't get me wrong, some of these reasons are actually valid and very important, especially when it comes to art and creating content for media and entertainment. The thing is that people fixing art take these good principles and hide behind them, using them as shields while they spread toxicity and blow everything out of proportion. I totally understand wanting representation, especially for characters in shows, games, and art in general, but that clearly doesn't give you the right to take another person's characters or original work and fix them by making the characters black. That doesn't show you support Black lives, and that automatically doesn't make you a good person. Yes, there is a very small amount of inclusion and representation, especially in games and shows where people of color are not represented enough, but before you jump on that bandwagon and go around and start fixing art, you have to ask yourself, have you ever watched any show aside from Sailor Moon that was made by people of color and has a diverse range of characters in it? Have you even heard of Cannon Busters or LeSean Thomas at all? Do you know any professional artists or actual animators that are black and are working in the industry? I feel like some of these people think it's the new cool to raise the BLM flag so high up, and apparently since it's the new trend, it's easy to hop on and use it as a means to shame people's work, especially if their work doesn't just fit well with you. Don't get me wrong, there are instances where this could be permitted to a certain extent, as I saw activists screaming at the top of their lungs for the skin tone of Nessa to be darkened and calling out artists for whitewashing when they couldn't use the appropriate skin tone when they were coloring Nessa. It truly baffles me how difficult it is to understand how to paint black skin. But there's a way to paint black skin without having it look grey and dull and washed out. Just take some photo reference of us. For most of these images, I definitely agree the skin tone could be readjusted and brought all the way down, but it still doesn't give you the right to take matters into your own hand and pull the saturation slider all the way to the left in Photoshop and upload it as fixed, making yourself the superhero and saving the day. Some artists intentionally do this sometimes, and when they do, you can definitely tell they are whitewashing characters, and then you can call them out for that. And then on the other hand, some artists just don't understand how to paint black skin and make it look natural and convincing. Instead, they claim to have a palette that they're accustomed to using, and a certain skin tone might not be on the palette where they paint, so they just tend to lean towards using colors they're comfortable with, which clearly is not as dark as the characters need to be. So the easiest and harmless thing you can do is just leave a comment politely stating the colors are slightly off and could use some adjustments to suit the race of the character, or better still, just send them a DM and be nice about it. Every artist learns every day, and a little polite constructive criticism might go a long way to help artists. Who knows? People who just take artists' work and fix it and re-upload it sometimes are actually just trolling or deeply seeking social validation. They go out of their way to attract people that think the same way they do by fixing these images and posting them online with things like, "I fixed this gross anime design and gave her a froggy cause her fit was boring," or other weird toxic things in the same manner. Who told you the design was gross? Why should you call another person's sweat and hard work gross? Do you realize some of these artists work insane hours and sleep under their desks working on the shows you enjoy watching comfortably in your homes? The hate is really beyond me, and I simply can't understand how they just do it. If a character in a show or drawing from a popular artist is over-sexualizing characters out of context and making them look ridiculous, yes, they can be called out and criticized publicly or privately, whichever suits you. But if a character is drawn with basic proportions that are anatomically correct and realistic, you shouldn't fix them by increasing or reducing their entire body or certain parts of their body. This brings us to our person of the day, Zeefixesart. As you can tell with a name like that, she is a professional art fixer, and apparently she hates fat phobia. So she advocates for positivity by taking perfectly normal images and fixing them by desexualizing all the female characters and making them black, as if that was the only standard for attractiveness. And there's also this thing she does with all the legs that I don't seem to understand. The way she draws the features of the face and the legs kind of looks like a bad joke that only she and people who support her work understand. The most disturbing fixed art from Zena is the one where she went out of her way to call out a fellow creator, a fellow YouTuber, Shannon, popularly known as Creepshow Art, which is the name of her YouTube channel, and she tried to make it seem as if she was making good points by stating she was criticizing her art. The faces are very misshapen and your shading is hideous, which to me is such a demeaning way to criticize a person's art. But then she goes on and says, "Your internalized misogyny is showing. Don't be so afraid to draw fat women next time." The most annoying thing is the image she went ahead and chose to fix was actually a portrait commission done by Shannon for one of her subscribers. Just let that sink in for a minute. It's literally an actual person. How can you fix an actual person in a drawing? I'm just wondering how disturbed the person must have felt seeing a drawing of herself criticized and redrawn by someone else entirely. Her entire features were changed to the point where we definitely couldn't even tell it was her at this point. You absolutely have no right under any circumstance or moral standards to fix a portrait of a person by ridiculing their features and changing their skin tone, even if you're doing it as a form of seeking representation. This is by far the extreme far end of fixing art that shouldn't be done by any normal human being to another person. And as usual, people on Twitter called her out with tweets like, "The issue with Zeefixesart is that they are doing body and race positivity all wrong. People can understand if they want representation, but by fixing art, they are putting Asians down, and that doesn't help at all. That's hypocritical of them to do. If their way of desexualizing female characters is making them be bigger, having body hair, and dark skin, that seems like they're saying that those features aren't attractive, which makes perfect sense. You cannot hold people's standard of beauty to whatever standard you hold for yourself. Literally everyone is different. You also cannot force a race or a gender on another person. Trying to be a saint by promoting body positivity is great, but not by forcing it down on other people and totally disregarding their own opinions." Thank you for sharing your opinion, Marie. I want internet clout, so I'll call out the art style of a much more successful artist so I can piggyback off of his success so I can get a chance to get somewhere with my shitty art. This just speaks to the fact that she also goes out of her way to fix anime designs by redrawing them and making them black. Do you have a problem with Asians? Do you have a problem with any skin tone that is not black? If you only want to see black skin, just move to Africa. It really isn't that hard. And then she goes on to say people who are making videos on her are giving her beautiful art all the attention it deserves.
No.
You've missed the point. People who are making videos on you are not just driving attention to you. We are literally criticizing you for something you are doing that is bad and harmful to other people. It really isn't that hard to understand. She clearly refuses to believe anything she's doing is bad and tries to make everyone else look like a bad person. My friend Omnia also made a video talking about this and calling her out, so you should definitely check that out after this video as well. It just seems she thinks she's giving constructive criticism every time she fixes a character, which she definitely isn't. And this is common too with other people fixing art where they think they're giving criticism, which they're not. Can you even fix art to begin with? Isn't art subjective and certain people will like that art that you don't? And then someone replied with a very good comment saying, depending on the skill level, some mistakes are made on purpose, some are legit mistakes. For example, drawing 4 fingers instead of 5 isn't considered a mistake if you're going for a stylized look. I think these people that just go around fixing art pretend to not know the difference between actual criticism and just being a hateful person. Criticizing an image is not just about saying certain elements look bad. You have to be able to understand the style the artist is using for the image and then make valid criticism by correcting fundamental mistakes in the anatomy, color, composition, while still keeping in mind the style the artist is using for his image. Because you cannot criticize a cartoony image the same way you criticize a realistic painting, because there are different art styles. And also, when it just comes to plain criticism, I don't think your social views and sentiments matter a lot, unless it's a theme that is being used in the image. I think the simple solution to this is to not take other people's work and try to fix it. It's disrespectful to artists who spend their entire lives working on a show only for you to conveniently come and take their image and post it online claiming to have fixed it when there might literally be nothing wrong with the image to start off. Just because it doesn't sit well with you doesn't make it wrong for other people looking at it. You can also criticize an artist constructively and politely without coming off as a toxic person and making a scene on the internet. Just leave a little comment with your opinions or what you would want the artist to change or take a look at. Some artists are quite reasonable and might take your advice, but if you want them to change a design in a show, that might not be possible at all, because it has to go through a lot of stages before it can eventually come back to an actual show. Another thing you can do if you don't like the design of a show is to actually do some fan art of that character and then show what you will want the character to look like if it were your design. Since this is clearly not official, you are mostly in your rights when you're doing something like this, but if you still want to feel safer, you can always make your own characters and give them all the features and personality traits that are comfortable to you, which is a much more simpler solution to all of this anyway. Well, that was a lot of talking. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment with your opinion on fixing art. I'd love to hear from you, and consider subscribing. It's quite easy. There's just a little subscribe button down there. Just click it and that's it. Leave a like on the video if you haven't as well. And with all that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.